Howdy, Tanglers. Today we have a little more about strings, 4 new organic tangles, and Knightsbridge. Before we put pen to paper, let us lay our supplies before us and think of something or someone with gratitude in our hearts. Maybe it's just having this time to tangle. Now let's get tangling. You remember that in the last lesson, we drew our string in a rather hurried and haphazard fashion. You can see those string lines were here, and we just followed them and we just put tangles inside of those, and we didn't really think about it. Today, I'm going to show you another approach, which is to get an idea in your mind of how you would like something to be, maybe where you would like the dramatic parts and maybe the parts that would not be so dramatic and so forth. And you don't have to have everything full blown in your head, but what I wanted here was to have something in the middle and then a border around it. So some dramatic tangle of interest and then these organic things going out. This was a sample that I made. I'm not sure we'll follow it exactly, but that's the general idea of where we're headed. Um, so let's take our blank tile and put our string on it. First, we'll draw our dots, and let's draw. Well, let's bring it in, and then we're going to add the border around it. So we need these kind of in. You can see I'm already thinking about where I'm going with this. There we go. You'll probably, if you haven't already started, start thinking about how you'd like your tangle, your tile to look, how you would like that finished tile to look. Be sure along here to give it some ups and downs a little bit. I've got a plan for that too. Okay, now, then we're going to have this space in the middle where I'm going to put something dramatic. And then I'm going to take it out to maybe this far with other things. And then our border. So we're going to start with that general idea. Our first tangle that we're going to put in the center is Knightsbridge. It's one of those grid tangles, and it seems pretty simple. The most difficult part of this is really making sure you skip every one of, that it goes black, white, black, white, black, white. Believe it or not, when you kind of get into your zone, it's very easy to just start going off and you end up with things not quite where you had intended for them to be. But that's okay. Well, you can make something out of that. So I'm going to lay down right now a grid, and I'm not going to make it look like a checkerboard exactly, not with those lines perfectly parallel and perfectly perpendicular, but just kind of lines going in one direction and then sort of going in another direction, not necessarily perfectly perpendicular. Maybe kind of fanning out. Be bold. Remember, there are no mistakes. And then go ahead and let's put our outline around that blob in the middle. One of the things I'm showing you how to do in this particular tile is how to respect the string with hard lines, and then how to just let those lines be a suggestion, a general area, probably one you don't have to completely fill. So this next part, we'll let this be a suggestion, but here we're filling it. Now, the trick to this, to filling it in and not letting your mind get too far off base so that you're just coloring the whole thing black, is to always start tangling, start coloring the next section from the tip that touches the last section. So we want those tips to kiss. Just take your time and enjoy coloring this in. See, here is a tip to a tip. So I'll color this. By making these grid lines at odd angles to one another, I think it's more interesting because instead of a perfect bunch of little squares like that, you get these other interesting shapes that form. Okay, now let's put an aura around this, because we're going to separate this piece, this tangle, from the organic things that we're going to put out here. And this is going to sit on top. So all the organic things are going to come out from under it. Remember, as you tangle, whatever's on top should be drawn first. And then other things, you allow them to either butt up against it or to come out, grow out from underneath. Now I want to fill this area in with our old friend Tipple. We'll just put little orbs right in here, like that. If your aura isn't perfectly aligned to the outside of that central figure, that's fine. We just make some of our little orbs smaller, some larger. Again, Makes them interesting. But we still want to be mindful of our craftsmanship. Close your circles, connect your lines, smooth out edges, all those things. Say that you have been very intentional about your tangling, taking your time, focusing. Okay, now I think I'm going to go back and touch those little interstices. The next tangle I want to show you is called poke root. It was one of the very first tangles that Rick and Maria put together. And it's just a stem with a berry on top. If you've seen a poke leaf plant or poke salad, uh, you will have seen these in the woods or something. I had never seen one, and after I had been tangling this a long time, and suddenly we were in the woods in near Jackson, Mississippi, and I saw these very berries on a big plant, and I was so amazed. It was a lot of fun. Okay, so we make just a stem, and then we add a little top on it, and then we put a ring around it. This little top part, we now pretty much like to keep it near the center of this thing. I made this several years ago, and I don't know, the fashion has changed a little bit, but uh, you get the idea. So let's add some of those poke roots around the edge here, and that's, we'll just put a little stem on it, and then a little cap on it, and then a nice berry. You can make these any size. You can make them small or large. If you want to make them small, you'll have a lot of little poke roots to put together on your tile, and maybe just a whole lot of Zenflow. If you want to make them bigger, you'll fill up that space a little faster. So I'm going to opt for slightly bigger right now. But still, I'm trying to stay within this line here. I can go beyond it, but I want to leave some white space out beyond. So I'll put one here. And then we draw behind to make them look bunched together like an arrangement. We're going to come back then and put poke leaf in these spaces. And you'll see that one in just a second. These organic tangles are so much fun because you feel like you're drawing bouquets, and there are all sorts of tangles that will work like this. And then there are blossom tangles, and we'll get into those in a week or two. So I'm going to put one here. And then we'll do some poke leaf. Here's the poke leaf. You come out with a stem just like on poke root. These are really sister tangles. Sometimes I spread these stems on the bottom out a little bit. And in the last couple of years, Maria has started putting a little extra indentation, I guess, on that stem. And then we learned how to make our poke leaf look like one edge of the leaf was folded over. And so it has a much different look from this, but they have the same DNA, we say. Of course, you can always adjust these stems to however you want to do them. And as you can see here, much of the time they just grow out of each other. We don't necessarily go for any realism of getting all the stems down here and everything like that, leading them all the way to the bottom. So that we're going to now put in here. So I'm going to make my stem a little different from this one. And then I'm going to put my little cap on it, put my little apostrophe right there. And then I'm going to draw a shape that looks like a leaf, like that. And that looks like a leaf folded over. So we can put in a few of these here. And we draw them behind. That makes them look like they're all part of one plant or a group of plants. And then you kind of fake it a little bit. I'll put one right here. If you draw them small, you may need to add some more to fill up that space or get out near it, but you don't have to fill up that space. Wait a minute. I forgot my little foldovers. And whereas we generally aim with poke root to have this little piece in the middle of the orb, we don't do that quite so much on this, maybe more in orb shape, but it doesn't sit in the middle of that leaf. You can do it however you want to, though. There are no Zentangle police. And the more you tangle a tangle, the more you draw a specific tangle, the more you're going to feel your own style develop with how you're going to draw it. And that's one of the things that makes Zentangle so exciting, because each tile is different. Each person brings their own creativity and their own magic to the tile. So there's those two little tangles, poke root and poke leaf. Now, I'm going to give you two more. But wait, there's more. The first one here is fescue, like grass. And so you draw a line up and you color in a little, little seed or something at the end of that. So here we go. We can bring it from the back and we can bring this out, and there you go, a fescue. Some of them you can curl over a whole lot, and other ones you may want to go straight up as they're unfolding. So I think fescue it is extremely organic. It grows. Now, let me show you what we're going to do with this next one. We have the tangled zinger, and again, it shares DNA with its sister tangle, fescue. So zinger is basically a fescue, and you put a little dunce cap on it. It begins to make it look like a Dr. Seuss book. Lots of fun, these zingers. So I'm going to do one right here. We're going to come out and put my little bud or whatever that is. And then I'm going to make a little hat like for it. And then another hat just a little bit smaller, and a little bit smaller. And you can change the direction of these And there you have a zinger. And here's another zinger. And yeah, that was my line that I was going to have as a border. We're just going to intrude on that border and show it who's boss. In fact, we can go way out here. Yeah, that zinger. I'll make a little one down here. Little bitty. And, you know, they feel a little top heavy sometimes. If you're enjoying this lesson, take a moment to punch the like button below and to subscribe if you haven't. Okay, I think that's enough for now. We can always add more later. Now, we're going to start our border, and I'm going to just trace over, pretty much trace over that border line that I laid down with my string. And we may need to leave a little space. I should have left some more space there maybe, but it's okay. Now, I'm going with, we're going to make three R's to this line. And we're going to put Knightsbridge between to make the frame look kind of elegant. And so we'll put a thinner R here. Leave a little space there to make it look like this Fescue is on top. If you cover it over, it'll look like it's going behind. Either one is fine. In fact, I may just cover this up. Okay. And another one. And I'm going to leave a little more room. Not necessarily a lot, but a little more between these two. This tile has a lot of good Zen flow in it. And then one more close together, about the same width as the first one there, that first space. Okay. Now we start somewhere and put down a square, color it in, and then another. You can make them as big or as small as you like. Now, let's have a little more fun with Tipple and put some tiny little orbs in the valleys, just wherever you feel they should go, and have them increase or decrease in size, just for fun. See, it makes a difference in the way it looks. Also, when we get to shading, it's going to make a big difference. Just stick some right there, tiny, tiny. Adding little embellishments like this can make a big difference in the overall look and feel of your tile. You're giving it some love, just little things here and there. Tipple isn't really so much a tangle as it is permission to use those little orbs any way you like. Another thing you might do just to add interest is just let some of those tipple orbs just kind of fall off the frame, you know? Let them fly around like the wind is blowing. They can break up that white space. Of course, you may like the white space just like it is, but yeah. Another thing you can do is add them down here between the stems. Okay, here is our tile as far as we've gotten it. I think most of our ink work is done, so we're about ready to begin the shading. But I just noticed something. In these interstices down here, we could put in a few more little orbs and fill in some spaces. This will help to shade that area next to our blossom type thing in the middle, and slowly work to this outside portion here. It kind of makes this line less hard if we begin it like this, and you can put in a pearl or two, or you can just color it all in. Or any combination thereof. Okay. Now I think we're ready to begin with our graphite pencil. Okay, now I think we're ready to begin with our graphite pencil. I think the first thing I'm going to do is put a little inner shadow right next to our border there. Just, put a dark line, and then we're going to come back and work it out with our tortillon. Put your tip of your graphite pencil right up next to that line, pointed in the direction of the line you're working on. Shading is such an important part of Zentangle. It is really what turns something that can kind of look like a doodle even into something that's three-dimensional and looks like a piece of art. So don't underestimate how important that is. And let's go around and use our tortillon to just begin to work that a little bit out and kind of pull it out in, just taking the tip top of that. My lighting is making it hard to see here. Maybe you can see it a little better that way now. Now I'm just pulling that like that, just smooching it out, but leaving it as dark as possible right up next to that edge, and then feathering it out. Now we've practiced on that a little bit. Let's go next to the inside of this. What we want really is to make this look like a pillow almost. And so we're going to put dark graphite next to the edge where those pearls come in. You don't have to go over what you've colored black already. Go ahead and lay a lot of graphite down in that area. And then let's take our tortillon and slowly bring that graphite into the center, toward the center. And I think you can begin to see it come up. It's just like somebody, like it was a balloon and somebody just blew it up a little bit. And so there you have it. Pretty simple. Now, let's take just a little piece of scratch paper here and cover a dark spot of graphite on it. Just real dark. And we're going to use this to kind of add graphite to our tortillon. You see that? So now this is almost like a little paintbrush. And we can add this a little bit to the tops of these, just lightly. And when we get to the poke leaf, you want to kind of shade it underneath what's flipped over. So up here, we're going to do the tops a bit. And then when you run out, you just go over here and get some more. And then put a little bit right in there. I find it actually amazing what effects you can get with such very simple tools. Carry this kit around in your briefcase or your purse or your backpack and be able to sit down and whip out a piece of art just like that. Perfect. Okay, now we've done that. Let's get a little more and let's take one side, just pick the same side for all of them to kind of round out our little zingers like that. Okay, it's beginning to look good. I think one more thing would be good, and that is to put a shadow here. We'll just bring it up off the page a little bit. Right up next to that line. Okay. And bringing our little tortillon, smooth it out a little bit, feather it out. As we sometimes say, I think we can stick a fork in it. It's done as far as I'm concerned. And I'm going to put my chop on it. My brand. Flip it over. Sign it. And date it. And there we are. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson and will be with me next time when I talk to you even more about shading. We're going to dive a little deeper on that subject. So take care and keep on tangling.